Good morning again, and you're very welcome, everybody. Take the opportunity to introduce our guests: the Deputy Lord Mayor of Cork, Fergal Dennehy, Leader of the Fianna Fáil Party, Micheál Martin, President of the IABA, Dominic O'Rourke, CEO of the IABA, Fergal Carruth, the Cork ex-boxers, Wexford ex-boxers, and I'd also like to apologise for Jerry O'Mahony, President of the Munster Council, who was invited here this morning, but he's ill in the hospital, so we wish him a speedy recovery. The trouble with naming names is you're inclined to leave people out sometimes, so if I have left anybody out, I apologise. I assure you it wasn't done intentionally. I think you might have noticed things are a little bit different this morning. I'm doing the chair, which is normally Mick's job, and it's a Wexford man as well. Right, so I'd like to say, when I was first asked to do this, like without hesitation, I said yes. And then I thought about it later on, and I said, hang on a minute now. This is Mick O'Brien's job, you know, and he's a wordsmith. He's a brilliant command of the English language. He has an extensive vocabulary. This is going to be some hard act to follow. But look, he's a friend of mine as well, and I have worked with him in the past on various things, the Celtic Box Cup and the Bristol Cork Exchange. And I always found him to be great because he does a lot of research into things. He's also well organised, and that gels with me, organisation, because I'm a little bit that way myself. And that kind of brings us to our first speaker here today. I don't know if he's well organised or not, but he's certainly part of a huge, big organisation. It's nationwide. Could I introduce to you the Leader of the Fianna Fáil Party, Mr. Micheál Martin.
Well, our dúspáire bhil am bhéchas a gháilí bheith socht an cruireadh bheith anseo maidin chun ar meas agus ar mós a cruireadh nuail do Michael O'Brien a socht an cruireadh atá déantaige son dornálaíocht I Gorcaig agus ar fud na tíre. I want to thank you all very much indeed for the invitation to be with you this morning for further celebration of boxing, and in particular I think to reflect and to recognise the outstanding work of Michael O'Brien in relation to the progression and promotion of Cork boxing itself. You might have seen I had a quick look at the phone there because there's tallies going on all over the place in Wexford, Cork and so on. So they're coming in hot and heavy as boxes are being opened. So my apologies for that. But first of all, I want to acknowledge the presence of the President of the IABA, Dominic O'Rourke, and the CEO, Fergal Carruth, and to say that it's wonderful to see the progression of boxing nationally under your stewardship, and the Carruth name is synonymous with the success of modern Irish boxing, and it's wonderful that Michael is here, one of our Olympic heroes and someone who has resonated with the people down through the years for the professionalism he has always brought to sport, to the sport of boxing, but also for the manner in which he's conducted himself. And it's wonderful for us to be in the presence here in Cork of such a wonderful boxing family in terms of the Carruth family. Thank you very much for your contribution in that regard. I'm in the presence of the Deputy Lord Mayor Fergal Dennehy, who of course with the Toker Boxing Club has done great work, and that club has grown from strength to strength, and we thank Fergal representing City Hall for his presence here. And I know on his left, and on my immediate left, is Spike O'Sullivan, and we wish Spike the very best of success. He's in training at the moment, and we're both discussing the benefits of how you can take lemon in the morning first thing in terms of the benefits to your health. Just wanted to let you know that. He was Googling something earlier. There's 7 ways to drink lemon in water. Didn't work it out, but apparently it's very good for you. And he told me that kiwis have 15 times more vitamin C than an orange. So we'll all be on kiwis after this particular breakfast. I learn every day about food and so on. But above all, I want to thank Timmy Sullivan, President of the ex-boxers, who was onto my office about 15 times in the last 2 weeks to make sure that I would be present here. But Timmy, a great family friend, one of the great ambassadors of boxing, and a great guy, as I described him as the encyclopedia of Irish boxing, great guy to find a photograph, an article about times past and about boxers past, and really a treasure trove of information. And thank you, Timmy, for your commitment, your loyalty to boxing, and your ongoing energy that you exude in the name of Irish boxing. You're a credit to us. And I want to pay tribute to Michael O'Brien in particular, because I've witnessed over the years, in terms of my interaction, given my own late father's connection and involvement in boxing, I'm personally thrilled to see it, to see the growth. But Michael has been like a Duracell battery in terms of never-ending energy, but always thinking of new ways, new ideas in terms of promoting boxing and keeping boxing in the limelight and raising the profile of boxing. And that takes a lot of work, and it takes persistent work. You can't just do it one day and not the next day, or 1 week and not the next week. It's persistent. And in the modern world, where there's so much competition in terms of news and sport and with the social media, it's very competitive to get your spoke in and to get the profile up, because in attracting young people into boxing, we need to be doing that. And I think Michael has excelled in that area, if he doesn't mind me saying so, in terms of the communications aspect of it and the PR. And last night, anybody who was watching the toy show would have been thrilled, because I thought it was fantastic and I thought it was significant. Last year it was Davy, Fitz and hurling. Last night it was Katie Taylor and a beautiful young girl called Ella. And just to watch the magic on her face when Katie came on the Late Late, to present her with her gloves from her recent fight, and to say to her, I'm going to do one-to-one sparring with you. Little Ella was speechless. Now, she had given her own exhibition with Ryan and so on like that. And I'm saying to myself, I came in late last night after the last bout of chemistry, we just watched it with my wife and daughter, and we just said, look, isn't that a bit of magic? It was pure magic, but it was boxing magic, and it was a great personality in Irish sport. And it also spoke about something else that has happened in Irish boxing in the last 10 years, the growth of female boxing, women boxers really taking, at all levels, their place on the Irish national stage, European stage, and world stage. Katie's the personification of that, but we have that in Cork as well, in terms of Kelly, in terms of Christine Desmond and others. It's been quite phenomenal. And Michael in particular, in his capacity and his work as president of the Cork board and his work with the board, has been very keen to promote the gender aspect of boxing, where it really has come into its own in the Cork region, where we've had tremendous success at all levels from our young women who are boxing with great expertise and great precision. That is a tremendous achievement, and it's really unprecedented. It's incredible. If you look back 20 years ago, no one would have foreseen this type of growth. And Michael, we thank you for that as well. And I just want to say, in terms of, I know you're a member of the Spartan Boxing Club, a former member of the Lochmahon Club, where we worked together in that for many years below in Mahon in earlier times. And I think you're ever present in terms of boxing in Cork and indeed nationally. And I just want to say to you, to thank your fellow officers. All of us have to work with, no one is an island. We have to work with teams. We need support from other people on officer boards and behind the scenes. And your officer board has been exceptional, very professional, very well presented. Anytime I've seen public functions in relation to boxing, you look after, all of you together are looking after the young people of the city and county exceptionally well. And in today's world, that's the great thing we can do. I think as adults, it's incumbent upon us to give every opportunity we can to young people to go the right road in life, to go down the right pathway, because there's a lot of other pathways that we want them to try and avoid. And there's a lot of dangers out there. Dangers, I think, that earlier young generations didn't quite have. And it's very, very challenging. And that's why boxing and other sports are central to our efforts to guide young people to fulfillment, to personal development, and to have a good, progressive, positive lifestyle. And to the coaches and everybody who make that happen, we owe you a great debt of gratitude indeed. And to the officer board then, who have to manage all of that through all of the clubs and supporting the clubs, it's fantastic work, and it's a great achievement for the people of Cork. And Michael, you must be very, very proud of that legacy. And I'm going to conclude by summing up what Timmy Sullivan said about Michael. He said, "A great man for Cork and Irish boxing." We salute you this morning, Michael. Well done, congratulations, and thank you for your work, and may it continue in the years and decades ahead. Go to Mila Mila Maha, good for
Margaret Francis, Dominic O'Rourke, President, Fergal Carruth, Chief Executive, Michael Carruth, Olympian, Gary Spiker Sullivan, Tim O'Sullivan, ex-Boxers Association, Leader of the Opposition, Micheál Martin, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Thank you for the very kind invitation. And Francis alluded to Mick O'Brien being a wordsmith, but how do you follow Micheál Martin? You don't, you know. I want to thank you for being here, Micheál, this morning. I know it's a very, very big morning for you. In boxing we talk about counts, and I know you have 4 of them going on at the moment, so we forgive you for being distracted. It is very difficult to follow what Micheál has said in relation to Mick O'Brien, but I have something different this morning. Many people who've been in and out of City Hall over the years will be familiar with the city crest, with the pins that are given out to many of the visitors, but there's one of those that not many people here would have seen. It's a limited edition, it's sterling silver, and it's normally kept for foreign dignitaries that come. I'm delighted this morning that I have one of these, and I want to present it to Mick O'Brien. I know that Mick noticed this some time back, and he asked me about it. So I'm delighted I have one. So Mick, the first thing I want to do is, on behalf of Cork City Council, I'd like to present you with this limited edition pin in recognition, I think, of the work that you have done with Cork City Council. I'll talk about it in a moment. You speak very highly of collaborations and people working together, and I think the relationship that Cork City Council have with the Cork County Boxing Board is testament to the work that you've done. So I'll just present you with this now, if I may, Mick. So when Mick O'Brien took over as President of the Cork County Board in 2015, there was an overnight change. Boxing in Cork changed dramatically. Mick had been working at that for 4 years prior as PRO, but when he came in at the helm, overnight you could see the difference. You could see the collaborations between clubs. The amount of new clubs that were opening in the city at that time because of the help and the support. And Mick, every time he speaks, alludes to the team effort. It's about having the structure there, and I know that Mick will be saying this morning, it's not about him, it's the team behind him, the officer board, Claudia, the 2 Johns, Billy, the people that do the work behind the scenes. Mick is the front person, but it's the team behind it. And I see it in my own club here in Toker. Even last night, you know, the work that to do under the guidance of head coach Shane Ford. Last night meeting, every Friday night now they meet just to discuss the week, you know, what's happened this week, what's happening next week, what tournaments are coming up, what travel is required, what coaches we need. And the huge amount of effort that's involved in it blows me away. We have a WhatsApp group going, and it's morning, noon and night, you know, and female coaches were blessed to have so many of them there. There's so much dedication and work that they put in. And, you know, I was on the way up this morning, and I was listening to, you know, another horrific shooting in Cork last night. And I know the instant political reaction will be more Gardaí in the street. We need more Gardaí in the street. And you know what? That's not what we need. We need more people like the people that are in this room, working with young people, making our communities a better place. So we should have less guards on the street. That's what we should be aspiring to. And I've seen it through my club, the difference that people in this room have made to young people, their futures, their lives. You know, quite often people, they can go left or right. But, you know, in many cases, the people in this room, the boxing family of Cork, you're the people that divert young people. You're the people that can keep them on the straight and narrow. In many cases, you're the role model. You're the parental influence that they don't have. And you do this on a voluntary capacity. I know particularly the Chinese delegations come over and we boast about Cork and the volunteerism that is in Cork, and they don't believe that people do that voluntary. They can't understand that concept of the work that you do 7 days a week for your communities. So, you know, every time I get to speak at these breakfasts, it just blows me away, the effort. You know, many of you know, there's boxing families, the Joyces and others, you know, that have been boxers yourselves and are now giving back to your communities because you know the importance of it. It's not just about winning titles, you know, it's about getting young people off the street. It's about helping them and giving them that, you know, that advice that they never had. But look, I've diverted slightly. This morning is about Mick O'Brien. And I remember the first time I heard Mick O'Brien speaking, it was the morning after we had a dinner, an awards-winning dinner, and he spoke for about 10 minutes, and I spent those 10 minutes looking to see what he was reading off. Where was the script? And there was none. Times, dates, facts, places, people, all off the top of his head. That's because Mick O'Brien is committed to boxing. He's a wonderful and amazing ambassador for the city. The fact that, the top brass from Dublin are down here is a testament to that, because that's the relationship that Mick has built up. Because they know up in the IAB in Dublin that with Mick O'Brien at the helm, it's about boxing. And it's about Cork boxing, but it's about national boxing as well. His heart is in boxing. He speaks of it fluently and frequently. As I said, Francis referred to him as a wordsmith. He's a wordsmith because he's passionate about what he speaks about. And, when my phone rings in the evening time if it's after 11, if it's sometime between 11 and half 12, I think, right, either somebody is dead or Mick O'Brien is on the phone, and thank God it's normally Mick. But that's Mick. It's endless dedication to this organisation. As I said, Mick talks about, the team effort and the right structures and that. And that's evident here with almost 80 people from the boxing fraternity in Cork this morning. It is a family. It's about clubs helping clubs, and it wasn't always like that. But as I said, when Mick O'Brien came in 2015, I think that changed. Mick was the gel that brought us all together. And even events like this morning, okay, it's a breakfast, but it's an opportunity for networking outside of the leagues and the tournaments and the championships. That was Mick's idea, to bring everybody together of a morning where we could celebrate people who have made huge contributions to boxing over the years. And that is a wonderful thing, because, people die and we say, oh God, he was a great administrator and he did that. But I think it's far more fitting to acknowledge and pay tribute to these people while they're still alive, and that's what Mick is doing, and it's fantastic. Not suggesting, Mick, that you're going to pop your clogs anytime soon. But I just want to say on a personal note, I've earlier on this year I had a couple of bothers, and we talk about boxers, and it's who you have in your corner. It's the two people in your corner. And I was very fortunate that Mick O'Brien was in my corner. We had a couple of long phone calls and conversations. And if you're looking for advice on anything in life, not just boxing, Mick O'Brien is a great guy to have in your corner, and he was there for me. And Mick, I want to thank you this morning for that help and support. I really, really appreciated it. So, congratulations, Mick, on where you are today in terms of boxing. Congratulations on what you have done for boxing in Cork, what you've done for boxing nationally. It is genuinely a huge honour and pleasure for me to be in your presence here this morning, to be a part of that. As I said through the presentation of the pin, it's an acknowledgement of the relationship that you have built up with the Lord Mayor's office over many years. You understand, how it works. You understand that we need to work with each other. I remember actually one of the last meetings, breakfast we had here, just thinking about Mick O'Brien and what does he do. The man is relentless. The man is shameless. He asked me, Martin, for €1 million the last breakfast that we were here. Did you get it, Mick, yet? No? We might have to wait another little while. But that's what you need in Cork. It's somebody fighting our corner, somebody advocating for boxing in Cork, somebody, pushing everyone to get the best that they can from everyone. So, again, Mick, thanks. I want to acknowledge, as I normally do, Katrina Toomey's presence here this morning, particularly in December. I know, it's the season. People think of homeless people and the weather changes, and you're concerned about people sleeping rough. You're concerned about deprivation and families that are in need. But I just want to say it's not just at Christmas time that Katrina Toomey is there. It's 12 months of the year. So even in the summertime, when the sun is shining and life looks great, there are still people that are suffering, and still people that are availing of the services that Katrina and her team provide. So I want to thank you for that. But as I said, this is about Mick O'Brien. So well done, Mick, and thank you. Good morning, guys.
In my ear became a mighty big man with a simple philosophy. Do what you do well, boy. Do what you do well. Give your love and all of your heart, and do what you do well. Now he was a man of laughter, but a afraid to cry. And do what you do well, boy. Do what you do well. Give your love and all of your heart, and do what you do well. Take it up. Today I still remember, just like yesterday, how a mighty big man with a mighty big heart and a mighty tree walls can say, do what you do well, boy. Do what you do well. Give your love and all of your heart, and do what you do well.
I'd like you to put your hands together and give a big round of applause for Mr. Dominic O'Rourke.
I'm delighted to be here, especially this morning, to represent the association on behalf of all the clubs in Ireland, because this is a moment that you could write in history for boxing, for what Mike has done for boxing, not only in Cork but at national level as well. He's involved at national as well. But I'd like to thank him on behalf of all the clubs in Cork for all the work that he's done, for all the clubs, because he's a boxing man as such. He gave his life to it. The song describes him well, do what you do well. And one thing about Michael, anything he does very well. And we're delighted that we're here this morning to honour a man like Michael. When I got the call off John, I said, well, who's been honoured today? And he said, Michael is. And I said, well, you know, he was the one that honoured everybody down here. He was the one that brought this breakfasts together with the ex-boxers and all that. He started this, and as that's grown and grown, and the same we hope to do the same at national level as well, because it brings people together, the boxing people together. You know, it unites boxing people together, and this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about, honouring the people who have done tremendous work for the association and for the Cork County Board. You know, he's united the Cork County Board, all the clubs in Cork, and that's a tremendous achievement alone, because within our family we have fallouts and all that, but for one man he's able to bring the whole lot together. And for that I'd like to thank him on behalf of the association. Thank you for being here today. I'm honoured to be here today. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I wish to acknowledge everything that Michael has done. He's with us at national level, and we'll hope to see him at the awards night in January again, where he will be hosting it. And he's a man of many words, and for that I'd like to thank him. Thank you very much.
What do you say about Mick? He's done so much and has done such a respectful job of honouring so many people from the world of boxing here in his beloved People's Republic of Cork over the years. It's just been fantastic, and it's super to see that being reciprocated upon him here this morning. I'm delighted for him, I'm delighted for his family, and I'm delighted for Cork boxing. Mick was previously PRO for the county board, and it was fair to say it was a role that was well suited. He was well suited to, but since becoming president, Mick has done a wonderful job for the Cork County Board. The membership has grown, the success within the clubs, their boxers at national level has flourished under his tenure. He has helped to build an environment here in Cork that encourages development, it assists learning, and in turn it drives excellence, all within a fully inclusive county board. The new home for boxing here in Cork and Churchfield has been a very effective new base for boxing in the county, and provides a stable base for competition, training and meetings. Securing that premises would not have been possible without the tireless work of the officer board of the county board, and in particular its president, Mick O'Brien. I note the council are represented here today, and I thank you on behalf of boxing, and sincerely hope that you've recovered from the numerous onslaughts of Mick O'Brien over the years. Mick is a great man for common sense. He is somebody that I would have regularly picked up the phone to over the years. Whenever there's been issues, he's always been available to provide advice, assistance and common sense. I'd like to publicly thank him for that here today. Thank you very much, Mick. Mick has assisted in very contentious national debates, and he has helped bring perspective and resolution to issues that needed a calm head. And again, I would like to publicly acknowledge Mick and thank him for this work. Cork has a very proud history and is constantly adding to that history of boxing. Most recently with Christina Desmond winning the National Elite Championship last week. And your county board is doing a fantastic job in adding new chapters to the wonderful story of Cork boxing on an ongoing basis. The person we are honouring here today, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, epitomises that quest to not only respect the heritage of Cork boxing and keep the memory of our past achievements alive and relevant, but also to add them and join them together with today's youth and the youth of the past in one family, that is the family of the Cork County Board Boxing. Ladies and gentlemen, may Mick continue to do this for many years into the future. And please, for one more time, please put your hands together for your President of the Cork County Board, Mick O'Brien.
I'd like to ask Jim O'Sullivan to make a presentation on our behalf to Mick O'Brien. Jim, please. Thank you.
I'm delighted to be here today, particularly to honour Michael O'Brien. He's been so good to us. When we first decided to form Wexford Ex-Boxer Group, we looked to Cork and Michael O'Brien for guidance. I must say they were so supportive and forthcoming with relevant information. They advised us to stay non-political, so we only have ourselves to answer to. That we also should be a committee of consent rather than one of I propose you second. Michael and members of Cork Ex-Boxers also attended our first breakfast morning and gave a speech to what's outlined above. And we have tried to follow this advice as close as possible and found it to be very sensible indeed. Thank you very much for that, Michael. So today, in recognition for his support and advice to us as a group, we take pleasure in showing him our appreciation by presenting him with the little gift that we presented one earlier on. So ladies and gentlemen, you should be very proud of... I love Cork myself. I spent most of my summer holidays in Cork in the 80s. Dan. Even Dan O'Connor was there, but we still came down. But you should be very proud of him. He's a very, very, very respected, highly respected man. And I just like to wish him the very best going forward. Thank you very much.
The next speaker here is he's a past president of the Munster Council. He's also a past president of the Cork County Board. So could you give a big round of applause, please, for Dan O'Connell? Thank you.
Deputy Lord Mayor, Fergal Dennehy, members of the O'Brien family, Paul and Cian, President, Irish Amateur Boxing Association, Dominic O'Rourke, CEO, Fergal Carruth, our Olympic gold medalist, Michael Carruth, Secretary, Munster Council, Dave O'Brien, Vice President, Cork County Board, Billy O'Sullivan, Hon Secretary, John Wiseman, Hon Treasurer, Nicola Kelly, Chairman, Cork Indoor Sports Association, Tim Hart, President, Cork Ex-Boxers Association, Tim O'Sullivan, members of the Cork Ex-Boxers Association, and a special mention to Mick Devan, a gent and a long-time friend to Cork Boxing. It's great to see you here, Michael. Founder and Director, Cork Penny Dinners, Katrina Toomey, champion boxer and celebrated ambassador for Cork, Gary Spike O'Sullivan, President, Wexford Ex-Boxers Association, Mick Cullen, but the Chairman of the Wexford Ex-Boxers Association, Jim O'Sullivan, and members of the Ex-Boxers Association group, from which our esteemed MC, Francis Keeling. Chairman, Cork Boxing Fraternity, Director, Connell Tree Services Limited, and today's most generous sponsor of this breakfast, Conall Thomas. Members of the members of the Cork boxing family. Some of you are thinking that perhaps I'm being a bit formal. This is, after all, just a local event to honour one of our own in our usual style, the Cork boxing breakfast. But for me, it's saying, Mick O'Brien, you've got some pulling power by. Mick, everyone present here today is here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to honour you. So it is to you directly that I will address my words. They reflect my personal thoughts and sentiments, but I am pretty sure I speak on behalf of a wider boxing family, your many, many admirers throughout the country, but especially your friends and colleagues here in Cork. But by no means restricted to Cork, because I suspect there is not a province, county board or club in the 32 counties where your name has not been mentioned recently, and I should add, in a very positive way. But that begs the question, why? Why is it that they're talking about you, and with due respects, not about the President of Limerick, Longford, Mayo, Waterford, or any other county board? But then it was you, Mick, who recently called to task the entire officer board, or board of directors and delegates at the recent AGM of our National Association. And shall we say, treating everyone with equal measure, I'm told that in boxing parlance, you were not pulling your punches at the time, the result of which resolved the problem that has plagued and disrupted our association for far too many years, the adoption of our new rulebook. Our National Association, the IABA, is indebted to you for your work and expertise, as we are here in Cork County Boxing Board. But then we have known here in Cork for a long time that when you put the right man in the right place, good things happen. Mick, I would like to say to you how lucky we all are. Not only have we the right person in the right place, but we have been fortunate enough over a number of years to benefit from your dedication, skills and commitment to the wider boxing family, but to Cork boxing in particular. I have no wish to embarrass you by saying only nice things about you, your personality or demeanour on this joyous occasion, but then I'm thinking maybe it would be great if I did just to embarrass you a little. But we must acknowledge Mick O'Brien, the family man, the tireless worker, a friend and mentor to many, and disciplinarian to others. Born into a Cork boxing family with strong connections to Ireland's oldest affiliated club, celebrating its 100th anniversary this year, the Glen ABC, which we know your father and uncle represented with pride and considerable success both inside the ropes and on the playing pitches. Today, you, Mick, continue to represent this proud boxing family with distinction and add to its rich history and legacy. I am sure those members of the O'Brien family present today are, and those in whose footsteps you follow, will be extremely proud of your achievements and contributions to the noble art here in Cork. We do acknowledge you, Mick, as a person of the highest standards who would be an asset to any organisation. But when you bring with you your many skills, especially your considerable expertise in research and administration, together with your communication, motivation, innovation and leadership skill set, you, as we say in our business, pack some punch. Words are so easy to list off on occasions like this, but it is the backing up of those words that make you the man we wish to acknowledge and thank today. In our present company, I know there is no need to expand in any great detail All here are well aware of your contributions, but I will give some examples. Communication. As acknowledged by your hugely successful boxing notes in the Echo, I know I look forward to it every week, especially when I am away. And like so many of the Cork diaspora that I am aware of, in addition to the many followers at home, especially our extended boxing family of ex-boxers, administrators and coaches, I know they appreciate being kept in the loop and feeling part of it, whilst giving due recognition to the many successes of a growing crop of champions at county, provincial, national and international level, and the ongoing work being undertaken by the Cork Board with its now record number of affiliated clubs, some of whom are celebrating their various anniversaries, whilst the younger ones celebrate their new beginnings, all with your full backup and with the help and assistance of the Cork Board under your direction. During all of this, you more than play a part. I think everyone here knows what I mean when I describe what you were like in full flow, on your feet, hands extended from the heart, sometimes fists closed, sometimes open, not missing a beat, a name, or a date, all fueled by your passion. We have all seen it, and we all know there and then that we have a great orator, researcher, communicator, and leader in our corner and battling on our behalf. Motivation. I'm again going to use myself as an example. After an absence of 15 years, after I felt I had done my bit, all 40 years of it, seen it all, and actually wore out the T-shirt, I was brought back into the fold when I became infected by your enthusiasm. And this, combined with your ready acknowledgement of all who contributed in the past, will show honour, acknowledge and encourage today's clubs, coaches, administrators, supporters and of course our boxers, was motivation enough for me, and I will consider this not a hard one to crack. I had the pleasure of being present at our city library for the opening of the Cork Boxing exhibition, where you, through your speech, brought us through over 100 years of Cork boxing history, its many characters and events, from a trip down memory lane, or Christchurch Lane, Cork to be more precise, to New York and then Boston with Jack McAuliffe, to London and Nottingham with Packy O'Mahony and the Spangle Hill Kid, Mick respectively, back to City Hall and the glory days of Cork boxing, where the champ, Paddy Martin, Tommy Hyde, Tim O'Sullivan, and so many others were responsible for sorry, houseful sign on many an occasion. Through the many successes of the 80s and 90s, when the great Sunnyside Club qualified 3 of his boxers to represent us at Olympic Games. Through to the present day, where you honoured a young lady, Saoirse Morrissey, of the Golden Gloves ABC, an Irish champion and an international, for her project, for her junior cert, whilst marrying the great charity work undertaken by Cork's Jack McAuliffe to one of Cork's great charities, Cork Penny Dinners, a charity which I know is close to your heart, and to your credit, the Cork Boxing Board has a positive relationship with. And like I said, all of this without missing a beat, a name or date, and once again from the heart, without notes, truly a masterclass in communication and motivation. Members of the Cork Boxing family left our city library that day bursting with pride, and those who were not members of that family now wishing they were. Leadership. Being elected president of the Cork County Board and re-elected twice since to that office speaks for itself. And if proof of leadership is needed, one only has to reflect on the success of this year's AGM of our National Association and your magnificent contribution to that success. I think that deserves a round of applause. Innovation, and on this one, it's hard to find a starting point, but annual award events, Sports Scholarship UCC, San Francisco Twinning Tournament, bilingual and commemorative certification, boxing breakfasts, Bishop Lucy Park Roll of Honour, Jack McAuliffe Medal, Cork County Championship Medal, coach education, club development, academy development, Cork boxing exhibition, and the successful staging of the IABA's annual convention in Cork for the first time in its history. And such was the success from an organisational, welcoming and entertaining point of view. Headquarters were highly complimentary, full in its praise, and to its honorary secretary stated that Cork's hosting of the AGM was a day for us all to remember for all of the right reasons. Need I say more? This is what we mean when we say, Mick, you pack some punch. And you will continue to do so for some time to come, with your future plans to develop Friends of Cork Boxing International Network, signalling a very exciting future for all of us here in Leeside. It just does not seem enough to say, Gorif Mila Mahagat, but you know that we do so in your own style, the Cork Boxing Breakfast, which all here have come to love and appreciate as a special occasion when the Cork Boxing family honours one of its own, with a clap on the back, accompanied by, good on you boy, you done well. Mick O'Brien, President Cork County Boxing Board, Cork Indoor Sports Personality of the Year this year, and recipient of the IABA's Distinguished Service Award also this year. Remember your own. Very much appreciate and thank you. I will sign off with the highest compliment one lone Corkman can say on behalf of the many. Well done, boy. You're one of our own.
I'd like to call on Colonel Thomas and the Cork Boxing Fraternity to make a presentation to Mick. Colonel Thomas?
Yes. Okay. I'm not caught for words. I am not caught for words, but I'm fairly close to it at this stage. Deputy Lord Mayor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I take in the President of the IABA in that, the CEO of the IABA, and from 1992, our Olympic champion, Michael Cruz, in which this country had immense pride in. I also look around the room and see the various dignitaries, as Dan has said here this morning, when he spoke so eloquently in relation to my contribution to boxing on Leeside. I am delighted that each and every one of you have come here this morning to honour me. I am delighted to see members of my own family, Paul and Cian. And Cian, my youngest, was the guy most responsible for getting me into boxing one particular morning about 8 or 9 or 10 years ago, when they had a problem with the local Lochmahan club and its premises, and they needed a solution. He came for advice, and I'm here still. Now, having said that, it's remarkable to see people from Donegal, Dublin, Waterford, Wexford, and various other parts of the country here as much as local people this morning. I am delighted to see All-Ireland champions in the likes of Shawnee Barrett from my land, who are celebrating their 40th this year, the likes of Jim O'Sullivan, who made me a presentation, a man who won an equal record-breaking 10 All-Ireland elite titles. And then to see one of the great names of cock boxing here, and a man who won, the youngest man ever to win the All-Ireland elite title at 16 or 17 years of age, Gordon Joyce, a record that can never be beaten. Equally, I'm delighted to see the likes of Mick who will be very shortly celebrating his 90th birthday, along with Tim O'Sullivan, the oldest international in the country, going back to 1948, having represented his country 70 years ago. To see all these people along here, with the likes of Dan O'Connell, former President of the Munster Council, former President of the Cork County Board. Dave O'Brien, who has moved from many positions and is well known throughout the country, and is Secretary and a good Secretary of the Munster Council. He's with us and he made the journey, and I very much appreciate that and his representation of the Munster Council here this morning. At the end of the day, on a day like this, people talk about what has been done and what has been achieved. But fundamentally, and Micheál Martin said it, is that I am a communicator who leads by example. I remember the first job I did in the Lochman Club when they had the premises was clean the toilets. The reason I cleaned the toilets was this, because I wouldn't ask anybody else to do a job that I wouldn't do myself. I pursued that type of leadership throughout my career in boxing, whether it was as a PRO or as a president. The idea is you must get people involved, and if you're prepared to do something, they will follow the example that's given. The success that I've enjoyed and achieved, the innovation and whatever I've brought to the game, is only my contribution. And I am only a signpost on the road to the boxing story in Cork and in Ireland. There'll be people come after me with better ideas and greater ideas. There's people who have come before me who have kept the sport going a long, long time. Because if they didn't, I wouldn't be here to play my role or my part in a sport that could have been gone. And Dan O'Connell was one of those there in the early 70s when the sport was absolutely lopsided. He came in, himself and Victor Aston, two army men. They saw a situation that was going down the tubes, coming from a city, a proud boxing city like Cork, that through the 30s, 40s, 50s and early 60s had packed City Hall with crowds, huge crowds coming in to see great fights, great nights, great enthusiasm in the city for the sport of boxing. And then it ebbed, and then rejuvenated it by getting involved with the community games, who put in parishes, who became clubs, and then it moved on again. And then it moved on to other people, and there were other presidents came before me, and they added their bit. And the previous president to myself, Teddy Barry, did his bit before I came on the scene. And what I did when I came on the scene, I said I would put my own spin or vision on what I see and the opportunities that I thought were there for cock boxing. And the first thing I did, I looked at gender balance, and I said, right, we have two Olympic champions. We have one from '92, Michael Carruth, and we have one from 2012, Katie Taylor, men and women. Equality, parity of esteem must be brought into the sport, acknowledged, respected at all levels. And that's exactly what I did in Cork. And most of the officers of the county board and the extended county board, executive and non-executive officers, are made up of male and female. And many of them are all here now along this morning, and they all have their blazers on, and they're looking at me and they're listening to me. And they're absolutely magnificent. And the job that the women have done in cock boxing, in and of its own right, deserves a huge round of applause here this morning. That's at county board level. And when we go into the clubs then, and we see what's going on inside in the clubs, and we see the various people that are working as females inside in long-established clubs like the Glen, where we have Clodagh and 3 or 4 more of them in there, Liz McGough, and they're doing outstanding jobs, and the various women throughout the city and county in Rylan and in Kanturk and all these clubs doing great, great work. That's something that I acknowledge and I admire and I encourage. And the most important thing of all is what I've tried to do with clubs is this. I hate to see the day when clubs are run by 1 or 2 individuals, because the end is nigh for that particular club. When a fella thinks he owns a club, you can forget it. It's no longer a club, it's a hub. and it's on its way out sooner or later. You must have a committee. You must have an AGM. You must have a structure. You must have vision, and you must have the sight to see not what's happening this year, but what's going to happen next year and the year after. That lays a foundation, not in sand, but in cement, and you won't sink as a club as a consequence of that type of thinking and that type of preparation. And that's the type of leadership I try to instill into the people, allied to the fact that when I came on the scene at one stage, cockboxing was practically in the dark. And I remember I approached the leader or the deputy editor of sport, and he's now the editor of sport, John McHale, and he said to me, "What do you want me to do?" He said, "Boxing is doing nothing for itself. Why don't you do it and come to me?" And we done a deal outside in the airport, inside in the toilet outside in the airport. One particular night at a function, inside in the toilet we were trashing out a deal that if we could produce a page for 4 weeks of 1 year, and if we continued, he'd give us all the publicity we wanted. Well, we done that deal, we hammered out that deal, and that deal worked. And it has become known as the boxing page on a Thursday night. And as Dan quite rightly said, it is read everywhere and anywhere. And before we started on the 16th of August this year and opened the exhibition of memorabilia, cock memorabilia inside in the City Library with Liam Ronan, the librarian, and the backing of Cork City Council, we were delighted that the Cork local Echo, with the permission of the Irish Times, who now own that, were prepared to produce a 16-page supplement on the history of boxing. And various people here wrote contributory articles to that. And that was the biggest publication that ever appeared on paper from Thomas Crosby and Co., as it had been known, the Evening Echo and the Cork Examiner for years. And there is much, much, much more to be done. And everybody knows that I have a book in the pipeline, and I probably will not, may not publish it now until I stand down as president of the board. And that may or may not be too long from now, because I'm coming under pressure from other quarters as well. But what I will say is this morning, that this acknowledgement of me by you and the people that travelled here this morning for me is absolutely the greatest present that I could receive. I received a beautiful belt from Conan, which was very appropriate. I received a beautiful gift on behalf of the city from Fergal as Deputy Lord Mayor, and I received a beautiful clock from Wexford. I was delighted with the presence of our people from Dublin, the Olympic champion. What greater honour could anybody have than to have our first Olympic champion here? And it was alluded to last week. I was in the National Stadium last Friday or Saturday night when we had Christina Desmond make history. She made history in that she won, the way it worked out, 2 elite titles in the 1 year. She won it in February and she won it again this year because it was brought forward that bit because of the Olympics that are coming up next year. And that's history. And there was a man with me on that particular night who also made history, and that was Don Murray, who was with us here this morning. And in 1962, Don made history when he became the only man from Cork to win in the same year the junior title and the senior stroke elite title in the same year. And Don Murray, I'd ask the crowd to acknowledge you here again this morning. A great champion. I'm particularly proud also of many things that I was involved in, but I must say I got tremendous support from an outstanding Cork County Board Committee. And in that, I would say, and I've said it before, John Wiseman has been an outstanding ambassador for the sport. He's definitely the greatest secretary in the country. The amount of work, the amount of hassle he has received over the years has been huge, but he's done the job doggedly, because he'd done the job under the team of St. Augustine. If you keep the rule will keep you. He applied the rules. His popularity waned as a consequence of it, but he was protected by virtue of the fact that he stuck to the broad and narrow. When you go into administration in any position, you have to make decisions. It's like a guy making omelettes. You've got to break eggs. And in those, when you make decisions, everybody votes for you. Everybody is your friend. And when you sit behind the table and 2 of the guys that vote for you are in conflict and you have to make a decision, you keep one friend and you lose the other. And if that becomes a grudge, it grows over the years. And bad news travels better than good news. And that's the irony of it. But you know something? What you do is you just keep going. Because what is right is right. And that's the way you go. And you can only be guided at the end of the day by your own conscience. But I always believe the man that speaks up is better than the man that says absolutely nothing. Whether you get it right or you don't get it right, the time for speaking up is there for everybody. And everybody should speak up, because that's the essence of democracy. And it's the one thing we all have and share in abundance. I'm always conscious of the fact that in moments like this, and particularly on occasions like this, that there's a time limit on it. And I always keep it to about 2 hours. So I always tell everybody during the organisational breakfast that I do myself that that could be over by 12 o'clock, and everybody will be up by 12 o'clock. But this morning, it will be the same. But I want to say 3 things this morning before I hand you back to the MC, the chairman. And it's one of the 3 things of this is that for everybody to come here for me this morning, I can never thank you enough, right? It's a memory that I will cherish till the day that I will go to my grave. There's a man at the moment who is a former member of the Glen Club, and today I believe he is dying. And he's a former All-Ireland winner, captain of the first Cork team in 1961, and a man who put a cup up to commemorate his name outside in the Glen Club, and that's Finbar O'Leary. And the third thing that I would say, just keep him in your prayers, and I will be asking when the arrangements are made, the Cork ex-boxers to provide a guard of honour, which they will for him when the time comes, and it is now coming very, very closely. I'd also like to acknowledge the role of J.J. Murphy, who has been extraordinarily good to Finbar and has been out in Marymount on numerous occasions this week. We kind of worked in tandem with each other, and he did a great job there in that. And that's again the family, the boxing family, coming together and working together in these situations. Because it's not all about medals at the end of the day. It's about communication, it's about being together, it's about friendship, and it's about a small bit of honesty when we can be honest in certain things. The committee that organised this morning, absolutely fantastic. This I know was planned in Spain, as I was told a couple of months ago. Dan O'Connell, John Wiseman, Conal Thomas, Paddy McSweeney, Timmy O'Sullivan, and 1 or 2 more, all involved in networking to get the group that's here today to be with me to celebrate on this very special day. I am absolutely thrilled and delighted that each and every one of you made it. I know Gary McPolan, the inspector. Well, he's a superintendent now. Gary meets me on a regular basis, and we do a lot of walking together. But Gary was with us 4 years ago. 4 years ago, when we had a very, very sad situation in Cork, when we were losing one of our members and lost one of our members, and Gary McPolan came in with a team that time to assist us, when for a period of 11 days we had teams out who dragged the river, and they went out day after day on the tides, and we had a great assistance from the Gardaí. Gary is also coming up now with a big sponsorship for us, coming up for a special weekend we'll be organising in the new year. And in the new year coming up, it's a very special year. It's the year 2020. And it marks the 100th anniversary of the burning of Cork and the death, callously, of our 2 Lord Mayors, McSweeney and McCurtain. And we in the Cork County Board are going to produce, to mark the occasion, a special certificate, Cork County Board Championship Certificate, for our winners of our county championships. Last year we produced a medal, which many of you see, which is an iconic medal and carries most of the top buildings in the city, and the hands out showing, I am a champion of this city. It's a symbol of pride and something people will be very proud of in the years ahead. But next year we are producing this one-off certificate during our county championships, which will take and carry the emblems of McSweeney and McCurtain. It will also carry, in a phased-out basis, the burning of Cork in 1920 in a photographic way. And it will also carry what it has done for the last couple of years, Oscuelga agus Oscuela, the bilingual language, congratulating our champions. So there are plans, and that's what we do. We look forward all the time. Cork has an awful lot to contribute yet to boxing. The story is ongoing. This was part of it this morning. This is the part that I will cherish for the rest of my life, and I thank you. And again, to the organising committee, I must say from the bottom of my heart, thank you very, very much, to people who came from Wexford, and thank you sincerely to our chairman for this morning's proceedings, Francie Keeling. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Today, 2020, the vision seemed bright. Ere I dream of the joys would it take as the wild winds that blow down the Mardine to each elm tree, where we sport and play between the shade on the banks of my old lovely, where we sported and played between the shade on the banks of my old lovely. And then in the springtime of laughter and song, shall I ever forget the sweet hours when the friends of my youth, as we ramble along, both those great mossy banks and wild flowers, and then when the evening dawned sinking to rest, shed its golden light over the sea, the